and welcome to our next episode of Opinion Loaded. Today we have a very serious discussion, an interesting one. We're talking toxic masculinity. Yeah, and as you can see, we have a panel of what I would say are some strong-looking men. So we want to get right into it, and let's ask them to introduce themselves.
My name is Mr. Wholesome. I'm from Arima, and I'm fortunately paired with the lovely host Amanda Alexander.
All right, I'm Peter Cador. 39 years old, a beekeeper, SDA, and I'm here just to share my opinion.
Hi, Sean Miller. Everybody know me as Jamal sometimes, but that's my name as well. And I am just here to give my opinion as well in the best fit way that I can, and to give honest opinion so that it can benefit everybody here, including myself.
And well, guys, you know the capable hosts. We have Caroline Stevens and we have Amanda Alexander. I am Dominic Martin. Let's head straight into it, guys. The first question, as we deal with this whole topic of toxic masculinity, I just want to ask you straight off the bat, what's your definition of masculinity?
My definition, like being dominant, being a dominant person,
being dominant,
like the man, macho.
Okay.
But what does that mean? What does dominant mean in your view? When you say dominance, what does that mean?
Like I'm the one that taking charge here, I in control, and I calling the shots.
For me, masculinity just has to do with the qualities that a male having testosterone and so on. Well, those qualities that is unique to being male. That's
Agree.
it for me.
Okay.
Totally agree.
Okay, can you give us like an example of what qualities you think means being male besides having the testosterone?
Having a nice low voice, you know.
Yeah. And as a man, masculinity, I don't know when to take charge and not be afraid to take charge when needs be or when you see fit. You know, it all depends on your judgment as a man to know when to take charge and how to do so. So not because you have power, I mean you will exercise that power, you know, in an uncaring way. So you have to know how to use your power and when to use your power of masculinity.
Y'all gave some really strong views in terms of masculinity, and I just want to throw over to my co-host just to hear how they feel about hearing men say, listen, it's about taking charge, it's about knowing when to assert yourself, and basically having that level of, for lack of a better word, authority. What do you think about that?
Well, I would say that this is how you all are schooled to be. This is what you all are schooled to think masculinity is, and so you know you can't fault somebody for what they are trained trained to think or to believe to be masculinity.
But generally, the definition or the explanations that you all gave, I more or less agree with it though. So yeah, I don't disagree with what they said.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with what they said either. I'm just saying that, you know, this is.
Well, you didn't say that. You didn't say that.
I apologize, Gusham. I apologize. I'm not disagreeing with the definition. I'm just also saying that it is what what men are schooled. This is how you all are schooled. That this is what masculinity is. It's a societal. The definition for masculinity, I believe, is a societal thing.
Okay, well, you brought us to our next question, because while you said that it's societal, meaning that we are socialized into that type of thinking, Peter brought in testosterone, so he brought in a biological concept of it.
Yes.
So is it social or biological, or could it be a mix?
It's a mix. Honestly, I believe it is a mix of biological and social, because you are born with your testosterone, yeah? But then you are trained how to to be, what boys and men are expected to be in society. So that's why I'm saying, apart from it being biological, it's societal.
So for me, I will say the biological aspect of it means that you are male in terms of your gender, but then society helps or rather molds what is masculinity. So I think there's a gray area there. So as much as it's a bit of both, I could understand why you said biological and Caroline said societal.
Yeah, I like that. So if society molds that, then is toxic masculinity even a thing?
Before we even reach a toxic masculinity, don't we need to get a definition, a standing definition of what toxic masculinity is?
Come with it.
No, and come with it. We have 3 panelists to give a definition of what they think. Do you all think it is a thing, and what you all think toxic masculinity is?
Toxic masculinity for me is like being harmful to let me just use the word society on the whole. That is what I will bring pitch here. Toxic masculinity is like being harmful to society on the whole. I don't know who want to grab, jump in, agree.
What do you mean harmful to society though?
Toxic.
Because given my contribution earlier, when you're speaking about masculinity and I talk about knowing when to assert yourself, how to assert yourself, I believe the toxic side to that is not knowing how to do that.
That's correct.
It's using your power unnecessarily just because you are a man, just because quote unquote you're supposed to be in charge, you're just using your power unnecessarily.
Is it healthy? So that's why I say you could very well be harmful to society.
Okay, cool, right. All right, so yeah, okay, I get you there. Okay, so you're correct. It's definitely not healthy to society as supposing to be the head of said society. I don't know if the females have a issue with that statement as well.
Very good.
I like how Wholesome coming in heavy, you know. Coming heavy with the fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's steam. I come in with the steam and I leave in quick. I come in to burn up and I go and I ain't really come. It's in and out.
Peter, jump in there and save with it.
I mean, to me, toxic masculinity, first and foremost, I'm very particular when it comes to labels, especially in this day and age. I find that, sometimes we hear terms and whatever, and all of a sudden it might mean one thing, and all of a sudden it will encapsulate a lot of different things. Where for me now, I find that masculinity in general is seen as toxic. But anyway, toxic masculinity to me will be those very traits, those inherent traits that I have because I'm male that are abused, right? Or used to abuse others or affect negatively those around me.
This brings me to the next question. Are men and boys just then victims of cultural brainwashing into misogyny and aggression, requiring re-education into right beliefs? So essentially, do we need to retrain the future generations or train the future generations to not believe that what is being taught as masculinity is masculinity?
To me, that question loaded in a kind of way because it makes presumptions about what is being taught as masculinity. I think we need to figure out whether or not what is being taught as masculinity is indeed toxic.
I like this, Peter. To add to what Peter said, first to begin to address the first sentence in the statement in terms of retraining of men because of societal brainwash. I believe everyone needs a bit of retraining, both men and women, because in order to understand masculinity, both men and women have to understand their roles. If you understand, if I have a different definition of masculinity to Caroline, then we could end up in some hot water. So we both need to be on the same page of what my role is. as a man and what your role is. So everyone needs retraining. And according to what Peter said, society now, I think as you said, society different. So 20 years ago, what we were being taught is different from what the males are being taught now.
Okay.
So yes, a retraining is needed or re-education, but on both sides, not only for the men, but both for the men and women.
Okay. I want to jump further into the debate because I feel like the guys now getting warm. Because my thing with this whole concept of toxic masculinity is why does masculinity has to be defined as toxic? Yeah, because we are not hearing the same definition for femininity. We're not hearing that same definition. However, there are some toxic females out there. So my thing is, why can't it just be persons with behavioral traits that are not acceptable?
Boy.
When we look at masculinity, we're seeing that in the pure sense of the word, masculinity is what causes men to be protectors, providers, to care for the same women and children, to build society. So for us to now coin it as being toxic, we are telling men not to be intrinsically who we are. And I will ask us who is pushing that type of agenda. So for me, adhering to that type of label, we need to ask the question, who is pushing that type of agenda? I want to also bring it in our Caribbean context, where we have a whole lot of single parent households, yeah? Where we have quote unquote your strong Caribbean woman, who, if we tell the truth, as a child growing up, don't let no woman take advantage of you, you need to man up. So we have women raising men and then saying that we have toxic masculinity going on, happening here. So to me, the discussion is far and broad, and I put the cards right on the table. I don't think toxic masculinity is even a thing.
Right. So for me, that was a balance of masculinity across the board, holistically for me. That was a nice balance that Dominic just brought there of masculinity across the board. What I will want to think that we more like to think as toxic masculinity will be going against that pattern. So for instance, I will not encourage Gershom to be promoting violence in his relationship, because the social norm of society is a woman disrespect you, slap her.
I don't know about that.
But I wouldn't say that's a social norm. I would say that is not a social norm. It's not a social. It's not a social norm.
But
I can't find the right.
Okay, I think he means because as of recently it has been publicized a lot in terms of on the news and whatnot, violence.
News and this and violence is like promoting.
But to add to what Aisha's saying, don't mean to interject. I think I have an understanding where he's coming from. In terms of, as of recent times, especially in Trinidad, you could see a lot of domestic violence where the women are getting the sticky end of the stick, unfortunately. And I really apologize on behalf of the male gender for that. But you have to, as I said earlier, we both need to understand our roles. You have to understand an educated guy like Peter, or myself, or Aisha, or even Dominic, will deal with a confrontational situation differently than an uneducated, untrained male.
That is true.
Being
Usually,
able to articulate yourself. That's why the Bible speaks about being equally yoked. So if I'm at a certain standard, and Carla and Amanda is at a different standard, both educationally in terms of the way we grow up and train, we're not on the same page. The way I deal with a confrontation or argument will be different. And when a man cannot articulate himself, and you have a woman who can articulate herself, meaning understood that the power of a woman is in her tongue because she does not have the physical strength of a man. So when she now give you that jamming and like, hey, you're so and so small, and hey, you're not satisfied with so and so in bed, and you as a man cannot articulate yourself or do not have the fortitude to walk away and say, well, let me go for a drive, you will hit she somehow. And that is unfortunate. But that is why we need to retrain the men to get that certain level of self-control. And you need to train the women to know that even though you're upset or you're vexed or whatever, you don't do those things. So then now you're coming to say, hey, men beating women and men killing women, and we're wrong. We're wrong for doing that. But we are just the next side of the coin.
So then with the example or with the explanation that you just said, right? Is it really that toxic masculinity exists? Or is it because we do not know, like males and females don't know their role and function, based on what you're saying?
Amanda, that's why I have a problem with labels in general, right? Because you see, when we use terms like toxic masculinity, a lot of times people forget the toxic and just label, they think of masculinity in that kind of way, right? We have males who are dysfunctional, who behave in particular ways, as well as we have females. When we get used to terms like toxic masculinity, I feel that in and of itself is doing masculinity a disservice, right? So we can't really be clear about, what being a male really is supposed to be, right? Yes, we have persons who haven't been socialized properly and so on, and they will behave in particular ways. And being male and having testosterone means you'll be more aggressive, you'll be stronger, you'll be more arrogant, and all of these types of things, right? And I could see how we'd want to say, well, that behavior from Peter, let's say I'm the person exhibiting those characteristics, that behavior is toxic. But just to be the whole thing or encapsulate it as toxic masculinity, nothing is wrong with masculinity, right? And I'm seeing even in our circles that a lot of us are jumping on that bandwagon and want to talk about just because a man taking charge or he might be a standoffish or whatever. Look, toxic masculinity and using labels to diminish masculinity.
A new term just came to my mind: neglected masculinity. Yeah, because we're not training. We have a situation here now because we have a whole lot of programs, training, support for females, for women. But we seldom have these type of programs for young men to train them how to be a man. So here you are having all these emotions, all these expectations, and no one to really show you
mentorship,
mentor to show you how to come into that. So I really agree with you there, Peter, in terms of that label. It only adds now to, I would say, the marginalization that men are being faced with in society right now.
Yes.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Dominic, because I often say this. There was a period in time where there were a lot of woman empowerment movement going on. And I keep telling myself, I keep asking, like, with all these empowered women, who are preparing the men to be able to deal with these empowered women? Because you don't really hear much of that.
Well, you have to go back to Dominic's first point. Dominic made he asked a very vital question. Who is behind that agenda? You understand? You have to understand, the man is the head of the home. It was designed that way from the day of creation.
So it was
and if you get rid of the man, it's the only how the devil is going to win. Effeminacy is a big thing now, and the acceptance of the LGBTQ society as well. So all this have a part to play. That is why Peter is right. When you label it as toxic masculinity, now you're marginalizing it. You're identifying like, yo, toxic masculinity, like that's a thing. And people just running with the name because they get a name to coin it and they just running with it, not even knowing what it is. And this is why this discussion is so pertinent today. And it have a lot of men, including the men on this panel, who are by lengths and beyond doing their part, but you would not hear that. You would not hear, and even in our circles, I always tell people, you would come and you would, like for instance, some churches, you would hear the pastor start and he always throwing shade for the men. And for men, XYZ the case, that does irk me. That does irk me to my core because it have good men working taking care of the family, and all you come in to do is to clown me, and you think that's funny. That can never be funny or even fair.
To add to the conversation, that I also don't believe that men have a safe space that they could go to speak about whatever issues or challenges that they are facing. So women have their girlfriends, and they could call their girlfriends and spend hours on the phone talking about and getting help. As Amanda rightfully said, we have empowerment groups, and men don't have that. And if a man attempts to do this, he's either belittled, he's either told, you need to man up. And we don't even understand what man up really means, right? There's no real definition. What does that actually mean, right? I wish that men had that safe space where they could emote. Because from small, what is a boy told when he's small? He's told, get up and dust out your foot. What you crying for, you know? He's not taught these emotions, how to accurately express himself, emote, right? And I think that is a disservice and a disadvantage to men when they have to face these challenges. Because women not easy. We all know women not easy, right? I'm a woman, and I could say women not easy to deal with, right? So yeah, I really wish that there was a safe space for men to go and have the opportunity to talk the same way women have that opportunity to express themselves and to say how they feel without being judged or criticized for their feelings.
I really like that, Caroline. And even to add, the same characteristics that is needed in a man to help society to function. Yeah, because we're going beyond just relationship. We're talking infrastructure. We're talking security. We're talking inventions. We're talking all these things that we enjoy that help society to function, which the man needs now to exercise a level of assertiveness, innovation, dominance, strength. I believe on the last podcast I spoke about how even anger is an emotion that is even necessary, because how is the man to protect his family if he doesn't invoke that type of emotion, yeah, in order to do what he needs to do? So all these things that actually make the man to really safeguard society and even safeguard his family, you're now telling him that that's wrong. And then also when he has to go into the society now, we are saying it's wrong, but I still need you to operate on that level at some point in time. Yeah. So it's very confusing sometimes, and a lot of mixed signals.
I just want to point out, as you mentioned, you said something very important, and you used the term agenda. I will say that if we really think about it, it is easier to control a society where the males are weak. It is much easier to control and manipulate a society where the males are weak. And so maybe this agenda is coming from places that we're not even thinking about, right? If I could feminize men and I retain my masculinity, I'll be the king over everybody. You understand? I don't know if you're looking at it like that. I mean, that's probably a little far-fetched, but I
totally agree with you, brother.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. As I always tell person that my go-to discussion tool on this topic is, when you look in the Garden of Eden, nothing happened when Eve ate the fruit. No one was naked, nothing happened. There was absolutely not. Everything happened when Adam ate the fruit, the head of the home. You understand what I'm saying? So we as men have a very important role in society. And before you wrap up, to add what Amanda said in terms of the empowerment campaigns from the women, that is a very thing. What are these campaigns empowering the women to do? Are they empowering the woman to take the role of the man? Which in some cases is the case. Yeah, we women equal rights. Women don't want equal rights. All they ain't building no buildings. All they just want to have say and to dictate pace. Everybody have a role and a function. Peter is a married man. It have a role and a function in order for his family to operate. You understand what I'm saying? And if we do not go with that role and function, that is where the powers that they are according to Peter, we want to call it, will start to coin certain things. Toxic masculinity, understanding this, understand, you need to tail back on this, you need to tail. So it have a no-win situation for me. That's why we here, we can stand and we can talk with business and we can share this link after.
And that is very good. And I'm really glad. Yes. So on that note, this is officially part 1 of this topic, toxic masculinity. I'm telling you guys, this conversation is going really great. If you hear anything that you like, go ahead and like this video. If you hear anything that's worth sharing, feel free, share this video. All right. So stay tuned. You're gonna hear from us with part 2.